Well, good morning, everybody. Bonjour, dzień dobry, dobre utro, good morgen, hejsan, good morning. That's about all I got at this point in time. I'm still low on coffee. And as you can all see, I'm sitting here in a airtight, watertight, soundproof bunker underground with some protests going on somewhere down there. So if I all of a sudden pop smoke and start lobbing shells out the window, you'll know why. I am still at work for a little bit longer, so that is that's how it's the last Prussian in Los Angeles life. Anyway, I got some interesting updates, some news, some, let's call it gossip. I think we should call it gossip until it is verified as something more than gossip, right? New about Project Riese sites. And we have to talk about Russian tanks because we have a thing there. And also Goebbels' house and all these other things that we're going to gossip about. Talk a little bit about the trip. And I will also throw out a little bit of fishing bait for you all because I do need a little bit of help finding some things, especially now that I'm about to leave and start my trip of research and filming this year. And I'll always GoFundMe something. I'm sorry, I'm trying to stay on track of what I'm saying, and I don't always catch the questions as I'm ranting on, as I always do. Something said GoFundMe, and if it results in just can we start a GoFundMe to send me to North Korea? No, you can't. Because that's thanks. So I guess we have the haters out early, right? No desire to go to a communist dictatorship. I live in California. It's bad enough. But let's also, I am on a single screen laptop here. Hey, Pierre, got your email. Outstanding. Well done. Good job. I want to share some pictures with you as we're paddling down here. But since I'm on a single screen, I can't just switch and make it all look cool like when I'm actually sitting at my office. So you're just going to bear with me on that. However, let's start the gossip. German politicians are debating if they should tear down Joseph Goebbels' house. Gee, what a surprise, right? The Germans want to destroy something pertaining to World War II. We've never heard that story before, except, I don't know, every day. BIG, whom I contacted, I was at Goebbels' house and I didn't get in, and I have written a couple of local mayors. I wrote the Bundesimmobiliengesellschaft, who is overseeing this property, which is also for sale. Last I heard was 2 million euros for his house and all the property where in the DDR time they built a huge school for, I'm not entirely sure if it was for young communists or Cosmopol or whatever it was. There's a huge building complex behind it that the German police sometimes use as quarters, overnight hotels. But all of it together is 2 million euros, which is really not expensive at all. There's no more house or water. There's no more power or water running to the house, Goebbels' house, but it is in good shape. I've seen it. It's a gorgeous house. It's really, really nice. Very, very interesting layout. I have been trying to get the local mayor, or as I said, I wrote BIG to let me in so I could at least document all the rooms. There was a restaurant some 10 years ago that for some reason was closed or got closed. It was quite popular from what I hear. Now, I wrote BIG several times, and as we all know, and I'm trying to be nice here, they lie, or they don't actually have any idea what they're doing. Wrote them asked if I could document the location, and they said we have nothing to do with it. Like, okay. Wrote a different department of BIG and said, do you have anything? They said we have nothing to do with it. I'm like, uh-huh. So they have nothing to do with it. So I wrote the local mayors and said no, called BIG. So they said nothing to do with it. So now I don't know. So what if I want to buy it? Oh, we can't see it. We can't show it to you. But if I wanted to buy it, who somebody wants to buy it, can't they see it? And now here the BIG is trying to convince the politicians not to destroy the house because it should be sold, and it would cost apparently some 40 million euros to destroy the house. German bureaucracy at its best. But obviously, BIG lied when they said we have nothing to do with it, because otherwise they wouldn't be there defending to not have it torn down. So they don't want to have it torn down, but they don't want to show it to anybody. I am so frustrated with the Germans. It's staggering that how hard it can be to actually get anything done. And as I'm starting to see with the German military procurement, no, nothing really does get done. So there. And when we live in a world where the French are telling the Germans to please start building more weapons, we really do live in a surreal world. However, nothing has been done at this point yet. Speaking of American bombers flew missions over Germany, Donald, is very interesting because the lake at Blanke, where Goebbels' house is, was one of the markers that American and British planes would use as their turning point, their visual turning point, to turn in over Berlin. So there's a whole lot of flak guns, and there's also a bunker in the house, which was never actually bombed. But it's an interesting house, and I think it should be. I mean, why turn it into a museum then? But if I win the lotto, I'll buy the house and turn it into a museum. Anyway, I don't have any love lost for Goebbels. I don't think there's anybody who does. Even if you are have National Socialist leanings, it's not like he was particularly well liked, but he was very efficient and had his hands in a lot more than just propaganda. But anyway, still, why destroy a perfectly nice house? So let's win the lotto, please. And now there's so okay, let me see if I can figure this out. And one of my buddies, Alex, he sent me an interesting little note that there is drilling going on adjacent to the Riese sites. It's a little bit off from the main sites that I am used to, that I know where are, and they were apparently drilling for hot water or something. And let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Do that. That doesn't show you anything. This might. So they're drilling. Let's see if I can open this up. They're actually serious equipment drilling. No, let's not use that program. Let's use one that can actually show you stuff on. Sorry, like I said, I'm on the laptop, so we're just going to have to do this slow motion. They're seriously drilling. Now, what they're drilling for is, like I said, hot thermal water, supposedly. And it's a government, so we're not going to be invited to come join, see what they found. But they also, serious, expensive drilling rig, but they also did LiDAR scans, and they found stuff. They found a tunnel that is not flooded by water. This is apparently the image of what they have found. So, don't know what that means, except this is a tunnel system that is not anyways typically. Oh, she did make a video of it. All right, fine, good for her. Here, did she get? She didn't get in or get to them in any which way, did she? I didn't see it. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be in the area anyway in a few weeks. Excuse me, and I'm gonna go say hi to them and see if see if I can do an interview, which is, it's very hard in Poland because they really do not like to speak English, and they really do not like to speak English. They also don't particularly like. I love the Poles because they're very patriotic and they love their country and they have a hell of a history. But you can ask all the questions you want, Irvin. Let me rant on a little bit. If I don't catch them, then just ping me or machine ping me if there's any questions. That I'm just doing a little update and a little stuff on things here. But yeah. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and see if I can maybe ally myself with somebody who's actually Polish. It's also Polish government and military. It's very hard to communicate with them. I found still not as hard as the Germans. They just say no, which is fairly standard. And then there's an interesting story that one of you guys just sent me, that somewhere between 21 to 2300 years BC, they had found writings around the Egyptian pyramids that they might have stored radioactive material, or might be storing radioactive material. And there's a lot of Egyptian texts that refer back to transformative lighting and effects and machinery. And if you've seen what Joseph have been doing and saying, talking about how the Giza pyramid and the big pyramids are something other than, just a tomb that's just basically built as if it would house machinery or technology in some way. And we're looking back to previous technical, what's it called, civilizations, which is very interesting. And that's kind of what they're talking about, how some of the so that, again, we're back to some utilization of radioactive elements in some way, and if it is symbolism or it's actuality. This was an article that was I think it was a British. Let me actually give you the right quote so you don't think I'm just making it up. It was written by it was on MSN News, and it was citing a Journal of Archaeological Science has talked about mysterious radiation levels found in ancient Egyptian tombs. That now again, we also talk about, remember how people that got sick, Pharaoh's curse, people died after they've been into some of these. Well, people do die from radiation, but now we're looking at, why would there be radiation in the pyramids? Why have they found this? What are these levels? And again, was this what the Germans and Ananabe was looking for? Was the question. It's always been cited that the Ananabe was looking for ancient, not just ancient rituals, but also ancient technology and machinery and things that could be used or could have been used. I think they were very much on top of looking for ancient, very technical, capable civilizations prior to ours. So again, if people, they were radiated because of this in the 20s and 30s and died, then we're looking at a pre our civilization technology that may have some that utilized radioactive materials that may have been stored there, which may actually feed into Joseph's thesis on the Great Pyramids being a machine to use, or a weapon. So it was just an interesting tidbit to tie these things together. Um, um, but anyway, it's a thought that was sort of the news gossip that I came up with. I'm talking to Roger. He is uh, uh, there is, you throwing a bunker complex at me. Okay. I found it's funny. I'm doing documentaries right now on a whole bunch of fortified lines and bunker lines that are obviously crossing Europe everywhere. And one thing I have, hey Matt, one thing I have now found is that I have pretty much visited intact and restored bunkers of Stalin line, Molotov line, the new Regelbauten, old 1934 German bunkers, West Wall bunkers, French bunkers, and I think also I throw Belgium in there. So I can actually, and Polish, pre-World War II as well. So now I can, at the end of this year, throw together an episode that's going to be very long, where we go through all of the World War II bunkers, how they worked, how they operated, um, in bunkers that are actually restored. So I just thought that's kind of cool. Roger is well overworked. He got his French citizenship, and he's got his his permit for officially teaching. So now he's teaching French how to speak French. Oh, I mean English. Although some of them actually complained that his technical French was too too technical for them, which we have a great deal of fun and joy with. So, all right, Robert, whom I have not seen high nor hair of for a long time, last week sent me a link to a video about how um, he was very offended about how Roger, I really haven't had enough coffee. I don't sleep much. Um, how Russian tanks were over glorified in this year documentary about how, well, uh, it sounded like Russia. To him, it sounded like Russian propaganda when they talked about how the Russian tanks were really good and so on and so forth. And I've been paddling down that road for quite a while. That um, if we had the resource to go to Antarctica, yep, there's a lot of things we would do if we had the resources. Believe me. Um, the thesis have for the longest time been that the German everything was the best of everything during World War II, and I mean they had incredibly good stuff. They didn't have enough of it. It was probably too technical, and their internal structure of production, manufacturing, bureaucracy was. I'm not sure if it was any worse then than it is now, but it certainly is terrible now. But it was also terrible during the Second World War and leading up to. There was way too much infighting and way too much uh, wasted resources, wasted production, too many parallel projects of the same thing. There, if anything, it really lost Germany the war. It's probably their leadership and management, the way they managed the war production, that completely let them down and failed. However, they eventually got to have some good kit. But when and I always thought we were all grown up on those documentaries from the bland channels that cite how um, the Russian planes on the ground, they're all destroyed. They were obsolete. The Russian tanks on the ground, they're all obsolete. The Germans had overran everybody because everything the Russians had was all obsolete. And the Russians themselves have very much pushed that narrative since the Second World War that all their stuff was all obsolete. It was old because they weren't planning to do anything, no offensive war. All these evil Germans, they just attacked them and they took them years to rally and rebuild. And I'm not buying, I'm not buying that narrative at all. It all started many years ago when I was studying military history, and I came across one of the German generals' war diaries. And as they crossed into Russian territory, they in Barbarossa, as soon as they crossed, they ran into huge um, uh, collection points of Russian tanks and armor, trains full of ammunition, all lined up. Airfields had been pushed up. The closest airfield to the German border frontier was some 800 meters. The Russian had pushed enormous amounts of ordnance, weapons, tanks, planes right up to the frontier with the Germans. And the orders that I have later found out had gone out in the Russian high command. The call up orders for the Russian troops to begin their attack on Germany had been issued that very month. Now, the Russians were absolutely surprised that the Germans pushed in Barbarossa and did that attack. The Russians never thought Hitler would because they knew he didn't have the materials, the resources to do that. He didn't have the oil to do it, and he really didn't. There really wasn't enough raw material in Germany to do what Hitler wanted to do, and the Russians knew that. And also, the Russians had been monitoring something as silly as the price of sheep and goats and fur, the prices of these things. The Russians had spies running all over France and Germany testing the cleaning kits. After the World War, Germans had left an encampment. They would pick up every bit of scrap paper and cloths to have them tested and have it all, the gun oils sent back, the machine oils from tanks and trucks sent back to Russia for analysis, all because prices are cheap. If Germany were going to attack Russia, the Russians knew this was going to run into winter. There's no way it would not run into winter. We talk about thousands of miles before they got past Moscow. So the price of sheep would have gone up because the Germans, had they been smart, would have stocked up on sheep clothes, on sheep jackets, which sheepskin jackets. They would have started issuing or at least producing the oils and gun oils that would be resistant to low temperatures. And the Russians found out, well, they hadn't done any of this. They weren't stocking up on winter clothes. They weren't stocking up on winter oils. So they weren't going to attack. So it was a surprise for them that Hitler did. It was probably also a bit of a, see, that's one of the things I need you guys to help me with. And I'll show them just a little bit. I'm working on something a lot more detailed to actually do a presentation on this and how the Russians really had learned the tactics of a rapid advancing war with tanks, planes, combined arms, all the way fighting the Japanese in Nanking Gulf, where they, thousands of miles away from their own territory proper, amassed hundreds of tanks and planes and artillery pieces in secrecy and punched straight through the Japanese lines, who were still completely unexpected, all in deep secrecy. And then again, we get to Finland. Well, they lost a lot in Finland. Yeah, but they don't care. And you have something like the 280 millimeter howitzer, tracked howitzer the Russians had. Do you need that for defensive war? It's very cumbersome. It doesn't turn. You don't need that for a defense. You don't need that to defend the borders against the Germans. You need that for offense, to roll up to pillboxes and blow them up, like they did with the Finnish. So, and just to prove my point, we're going to go back to this horrible, horrible slideshow that I have prepped for you that I'm going to flip all over because nothing is in order. But anyway, we're going to do it anyway. I'll show you. And we just want to go through some of these tanks a little bit, just for the fun of it. Just to show you an example, or talk a little bit about the example of what you take. The Russians, they started building tanks in the mid-20s. What tanks did the Germans build in the mid-20s? All right, none. So, okay, we take the light BT series, the light Russian tanks, built in 1932. It was a light tank, 11 tons, crew of 3, with a 45 millimeter main gun and a 7.62 millimeter machine gun. It had a 400 horsepower engine. It will go 72 kilometers an hour. This was in 1932. And what you're now looking at was, let me see if I can find the little thing. Like I said, this is going to be a little bit of a flip-flop back and forth. So, of course, the BT is the only one I didn't actually save. I'm an idiot. Well, we all know this. So anyway, we'll skip back to, now remember what I just said. The BT series tank, what that had. We get to open this up, so we can flip it now. This is, like I said, this is much easier on my own home computer. Believe me, it is. So this is a Panzer II, Panzer I, actually. Yes. This is what the Germans had. Now, remember what I just told you. This is Panzer III. See, I told you I was getting on the wrong. What the hell am I doing? This is not as easy as it is when I have my own damn screen. Believe me, this is a lot easier. Where's my Panzer II? Damn it. Well, at this point in time, honestly, if you guys don't know what a Panzer II is, I'm sure you do. So never mind. Bloody hell. Oh, yeah, the slideshows on a one-screen layout, just a nightmare. Okay, so the BT series, the light tank, 1932, with a 45 millimeter main gun. And what did the Germans have in 1932? None. That's right. The first German tank with the Panzer I didn't actually get constructed and into some sort of practice till 1934, and it only had two machine guns. It had two-man crew. It had a 59 horsepower engine. It would go 37 kilometers an hour. This was that small first tank. That was the German light tank. 2 years before the PT series, the Russians had one with 45 millimeters. Then you have another light tank of the Russians, the T-26, three-man crew, 45 millimeter main gun again. What German tank in 1934 had a 45 millimeter main gun? None. Although it had a gasoline engine, because this was the one that was running the Christie chassis, had a 90 horsepower engine. And not only that, the Russians had a bomber that could fly this thing around. The Germans didn't exactly have any planes that could do anything like that. You have the Panzer III that was designed in 1935, which I believe I should show you. It had a 37 millimeter gun. That was the first gun the Germans put on a tank. They were also playing with the assault gun that had a larger gun, but shorter howitzer. The Panzer III in 1934 had a 295 horsepower engine. In 1926, the Russians had a heavier tank with a larger gun. You go, then we paddle up to the Russian medium tank, which I guess would be comparable to the German Panzer III. The Russian medium tank, designed in 1928. It was the T-28. And unfortunately, I actually have a picture of this because it was really cool. Six-man crew, and it had 20 to 40 millimeters of armor. And it had a 76 millimeter howitzer and 4 or 5 machine guns. Yeah, it's one of those multi-turret guns, really cool. And a 500 horsepower engine. It'll go 43 miles an hour, 43 kilometers an hour, 27 miles an hour. The Germans didn't have anything like this. So now you're looking at, why is it that we're all said that everything the Russians had was obsolete? And I'll tell you why that in a second. You had the T-37, the Russians tank, designed 1937, makes Russian numbers fairly easy. Who else had an amphibious tank during the Second World War or before the Second World War? Nobody. No one even had amphibious tanks. And this damn thing actually set sailing records, sailing for miles through rough water lakes. It was an amazing vehicle. They also made one, 37A, with a flamethrower on the damn thing. And the Russian multi-turret tanks that they had, that I really love, the Russian heavy tank in 1935, 45 tons with 11 to 30 millimeters or armor, two 45 millimeter guns, and 5 or 6 7.62 machine guns, 500 horsepower engine. We'll go 30 kilometers an hour with a crew of 10. And the prototype came out in 1932 when Germany didn't even have any tanks. The only comparable thing in Germany the German Panzer IV, which was a medium tank, didn't start service until 1940. It was designed in 1935, didn't actually start seeing service until 1940, like for Battle of France, in very few numbers. Only weighed 25 tons. It was a medium tank. It had a crew of 5 and 80. Okay, it had heavier frontal armor, granted. But they had the engine had 296 horsepower, with giving it only 38 kilometers an hour road speed. So what I'm saying, now let's see if I can figure out how to pull up the pictures there, and then we look at the ones I just talked about, because it's easier when I actually do that on this one screen. But why is it that the Russians did not want to, or actually all about, this is the flamethrower tank, which it took, but it was fast. I think this is the 35. Multiple turrets and multiple guns. The Germans, no one had anything like this. The Russians built some really large kit. And again, with a 400 and 500 horsepower engine, this was the closest thing the Germans got. And when the Panzer III came out, this is the Panzer IV with the 75 millimeter long gun. Finally, the Germans were catching up, but it started with a short gun. The Panzer III with a little 37 millimeter initially, that also got upgunned throughout the war, obviously. So this was the Panzer II. I couldn't, the Panzer I, I couldn't, it was Panzer II that I couldn't find before, with little 2 machine guns. And this is, I mean, you gotta love it. You gotta love when the Russians they just stick guns everywhere. They do whatever. I have a picture of a model that really shows. I thought I had a picture of a model that kind of shows that I want to share this one. And you gotta love the Russians. Only the Russians would do something like this. I don't know. Maybe the French would do something like this as well. But super heavy tank. Now, so when the Germans attacked, are you telling me this was obsolete? It was new and it was bigger and better than anything the Germans actually had at that time. So my argument has always been, why is it that we keep saying, that the Russian stuff was obsolete? Why do the Russians reinforce that? Because, of course, and yes, you're absolutely right. Viktor Surov, he does break it down really nicely. And I'm surprised that very few people has actually run with that thesis. And that's one of the things I wanted to ask you for. I have been looking for the maps of the surveillance footage the Germans took before Barbarossa of the Russian troop assemblies on the other side. Because the Russians had amassed all their army groups and groupings right opposite the Germans in large numbers, and the German aerial photography had detected this. And the surveillance photos taken by the airplanes, I would like to find out where they are. The Russians have still not, even in their books, published where their troop concentrations were leading up to Barbarossa, because of course it would show that they were distributed proper for an attack. So, not particularly. I'll note on some of our tanks in the Ukraine just a second. Let me just finish this one. And it was obvious the Russians were going to do an attack. It was obvious they had done a deal over Poland that made the Germans attack first, while Stalin set it out, making him look good. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The Russians fueled all of Germany's war machine for the longest time, which is one of the reasons why Stalin didn't think that Hitler was going to. Thank you, Ian, buddy. Was going to. Yeah, I do need coffee, don't I? Why can't I do a smiley face on StreamYard? I can't smiley face you, Ian. God damn it. Huh. Fine, I'll do it on YouTube. And I thought it's been very interesting how the communists, how Russia got away with actually all of those aggressive wars with all of their equipment. Yeah, but their tactics weren't obsolete. They were just not preparing for a defensive war. They were preparing for an aggressive war. And you look at all their heavy tanks, their super heavy artillery pieces, their planes. They had bombers that no one had. With metal hulls all the way in the mid-20s that would haul tons and tons of bombs that no one else had. No, he wasn't. So I think this needs to be established a bit more, because there's still a lot of people that are paddling around this whole idea that Hitler was the only aggressor of the Second World War, and he didn't really have a choice when it comes to attacking Russia, because Stalin was perhaps a week or maybe weeks away from launching his attack west. And he would have had the support of the West, because he was now he was already the good guy. And the Americans and even Churchill turned to let Stalin do whatever he wanted to do. Just look at what it did to the Polish. And everybody else he subjugated for the entirety of the Cold War. Well, he didn't until he died, but then he continued from there on. And that's kind of one of the things that I would like to try to, Well, that's interesting with the purges. Did they or didn't they? He got rid of a lot of interesting people, a lot of bad people that might be a competition to him. Um, sorry, it's hot in here now. Thanks, Ian. I tried. I can't smiley face that thing. Is there a star? What does that mean? Andrew. Well, thank you, Andrew. Why are you? Why? I just have a separate. I have a separate chat going on. Why in the hell? Thank you. And Andrew, where did you go? When you buy me coffee, this thing I can do is publicly say thank you, but now I can't find it. I'm never going to do this again on one screen. Nobody should work on one screen. It's just not right. Well, Andrew, I saw. Thank you. I really have no idea if he was or not. I know a large part of the Russian communist government before World War II were Jewish, but oh, anyway, all right. So questions. You asked about how the well, Stalin was a bank robber, bit of a criminal, and kidnapped people for extortion money. But he was a smart guy. You can't take that away from him. So, how are the tanks doing in Ukraine? Well, everything's a bit crappy out there these days. It's not quite as dire as the media wants to make it look. But the Abrams were withdrawn after like 5 of them had gotten destroyed by drones, and well, anything that flies around that runs out there gets destroyed by drones. So that this is not really something tanks thought they were going to have to deal with. They will be reconfigured with anti-drone electronics. Same thing for the Leopards. Something you're now going to see to counter the drone threat, which is a real thing, is drone countermeasures, electronic countermeasures to drone warfare. The Russians have started implementing that in some of their tanks. So some of them are hard to hit with drones now because they have jammers, so you can only fly the drone so and so far. However, you also have a bunch of drones that will lock onto a target from far away, and then without any connection to it, it'll independently go hit the target and destroy even the smaller drones, but not that small. They're not the small, really cheap ones. They're still smaller and cheaper compared to the price of a tank. But tank warfare is going to change. I saw the Russian turtle tanks. Very interesting the way they did that. I kept thinking when I see the Russian turtle tanks, they pretty much encased their tanks in an additional layer of steel plates. It sort of reminds me a little bit of, well, why don't we just bring the assault guns back? Because you have very little traverse. You can't see anything in any direction. And some of them, they stuck a drone jammer on top of. Well, thank God for that. But now they only point in one direction, which sort of takes away all the benefits of having a tank, really. They're also several tons heavier, which may wear out the gears quite a bit faster, I would almost imagine. That some of the either suspensions or something's going to give to the added weight. Although the Russians, they usually build crap pretty sturdy. Let's just face it. So we'll see what the Ukrainians get when it comes to drone jammers. I would imagine the same cases. I mean, the same cases would be for the Leopards, and the same be for the Challenger tanks. Everything needs now. Needs that now. You're having a conversation about money and Jews. Let's not try to turn into an American college, though, these days, shall we? I'm just okay. Well, we talk about central. The steel plates that wrapped around the tanks, the turtle tanks, that's not from used tanks because they're all flat plates. There are probably some of those road steel plates. You have to cover a ditch or a hole in the road. I think that's kind of whatever that is. It's basically to keep anything away from the hull of the tank, have it explode at a distance, like you see some of the shrouds on the APCs and all that stuff. Um, and what did I just see? I just saw a note. EMP would still be the way against drones. The problem is, and I have a very, very smart person who invents toys for the special forces, and a good friend of mine. And problem with an EMP is it's non-directional, which means that if you set it off, you set everything off, and you destroy everything, including your own stuff. Um, I'm not entirely sure that's not going to be. I'm not sure that's not going to be the way to go for an area denial. Might be if you safeguard all the old electronics in an area where the Russians are massing. Do the EMP. Yeah, but you're still going to lose a lot of comms and electronics. I would imagine there's still going to be a whole lot of stuff that's not EMP proof. But again, I mean, the funny thing about waging a war is you always find a way to overcome, and it's thought the drone jammers was an interesting way of doing it. I figured just running around out there with a shotgun and with birdshot. But anyway, I'm old fashioned. I don't know technology. I can't even work my damn laptop. Um, um, well, not all of them. Yeah, the Christian designs, the T-26 was, but the T-34 was different. Which again is like you look at the T-34, again, Russian tanks. The numbers are based on the year of design. What did anybody else in the world have in 1934 that would come even remotely close to the T-34? So the story that it fit for the Russians to come up with a story that everything they had was old and obsolete. That's why they were overrun so easily. Because what else were they going to say? We're getting ready to attack. We really wasn't set up for this. Nothing else they would say is going to make it look good. So just blame it on old designers and ship more of them off to the gulags. Go. You know what? Get the Goliath woodwork. I saw the Ukrainians are doing remote controlled vehicles for mine laying. They have little vehicles that'll roll out to a road crossing and just drop some mines and come back. So I guess the Goliath is sort of coming back in an interesting configuration, sort of. But yeah, I mean, honestly, if other people, if the Christian suspension was not a bad idea, it's a great idea. But you also got to think about how much the Russians didn't figure all this out on their own. They had millions of slave laborers that was working away, digging out gold that they would send to the Americans, American bankers and industrialists and businessmen to come over and set up factories and show them how it was done. They didn't figure this all out on their own. They learned a lot from America. They learned a lot from Germany. They bought a lot of tech from around the world that they built up, but they were so is the story true of the inventor of the T-34 died of pneumonia because he didn't know how to turn on the? Hang on, God damn it, just moving faster than I am, which is, you know what? I don't know. I'm gonna go with probably not. It's just my instinct, but you know, this is something we should figure out. Well, no one can really. That's the interesting thing is given some of the miscommunication with the Russians, everyone throwing mines around. Does anybody really know where they are at this point? Russian troops are currently stationed on the border of Israel near the Golan Heights. Wagner. Oh, Wagner again. Yeah, I mean, I still think this should be. I would love to talk to one of the guys from Wagner. I really would. No, I don't take sides here. I would just love to hear what. I still want to hear how on earth um, they managed to get all their higher ups, all their command and finances and leadership on one plane. They got shot down or got blown up. It just makes so much not sense. I really would like to talk to one of them about what on earth this was. Um, yeah, I mean, we sent them so much stuff. I broke that down some years ago in a in an episode about all the stuff we sent the Russians. And if we haven't sent all of that stuff to them, they probably would not have. They were probably a lot in Moscow. I'll say that because the Russians, they ran on American trucks. Their logistics ran on American trucks. They really did. But not that they didn't have a good concept of what logistics were, because they did, and they showed that in Nanking Gall. So they certainly did know. I'm going to the questions here. Uh, White Russian President Lukashenko. I mean, we're just. Thank you, dude. Yeah, all the stuff. I mean, we're looking at such a. This is such a weird year. This is such a weird year. Uh, I. That's why I'm just looking forward to getting out of here. To not for a while and not have to worry about the election, because I'm really worried about the election. But one thing I wanted to tell you, and this is something that you really need to be aware of. And considering there's only about 100 of you watching right now, this well, you're going to learn something that's really important. The new cars that they're building now, their upgrades, will have geofencing and remote control stop. And I'll just say that again: the new cars that they're coming out with from couple of years ago until now, and the new cars from now on will have geofencing and remote control stop. Of course, it says in the paper, I think it was Hyundai or Subaru, that somebody brought back saying, what is this? And they said, well, we will never use any of this without permission, or in parentheses, or because of official law or request. You remember when the whole scandemic ran around Europe, and they locked all you Europeans up so you couldn't leave your house more than 1 or 2 kilometers, and they want all these 15-minute cities where you don't need to go around more than 15 minutes from where you live, because everything you'll have will lead right there. There'll be travel restrictions. Well, this is how you enforce travel restrictions, or forced lockdowns. You shut off your car remotely. That's why they want to have this in new cars. What do you think digital currency is all about? It's about control. And you really need to start thinking about what's coming. I will never have a newer car, ever, ever. My next car is probably going to be made 1945, 1950. And I will make it my forever car. There will be none of this. And they really are pushing this hard. And it's very scary that well, some of the politicians on the right, they're just too spineless that to actually stand up and fight back. So they're just as useless. But we are living in a world of everything fake, and it's terrifying, especially to so many people who are just not paying attention to what is really, really going on. It was interesting. Well, like, I'm still making notes for the documentary I want to do on how to spot and propaganda. Remember here not all of you in America, but right now we are. The unemployment, the numbers, the employment numbers came up. Said employment was up by 3.7 or whatever it was. Oh, it's great. More Americans employed. However, if you break down the numbers, given all the illegal illegal aliens that are invaded our country here, American citizens' employment numbers have gone down. Illegal alien employment is the one that's gone up. So there's less work for American citizens. There's more work because they're hiring all these cheap illegals. So if you're an American citizen, the employment numbers actually have gone down. And it's terrifying how no one is calling this. So it is. We're living in a reverse paradigm. We're living in an upside down world where everything common sense is no more. And it's terrifying that there are so many people that that are not paying attention because they don't want to. It's depressing. It's hard. They have 4 jobs. I get it. But we really, really have to pay attention to what's going on now. because it's happening very, very fast. Just look at the emission cameras in England, around London. It's like that people fortunately are breaking. Not that I were begging anybody to break the law in any which way, but everything is about control to a point where why aren't people protesting that? I mean, of course, all the college students and all these morons that are running around and screaming, people are running around in colleges yelling, death to the Jews, death to America, right now, not far from here in this country. And with that, never, what do you think John Wayne would have said? What do you think anybody would have said? What do you think Reagan, what do you think Kennedy would have said? What do you think Martin Luther King would have said? This is insane. Of course, Soros is paying for these demonstrations. Some of them were asked, and they have no idea why they're actually there. Give me liberty, or give me death. Oh, I was actually going to wear that T-shirt today, but I didn't. Anyway, so when it's not hard to get these people fired up because they have no idea what they're doing. They're just some of them are getting paid to advertise and everybody else. But so anyway, yes, German aerial photography, please. And USS New Jersey, no. At Queen Mary, I was at, yes. I had lunch on the Queen Mary. And, I found out there is some of the old World War I airship hangars are still, one of them burnt down, one of them is still here. So I'm going to, when I get back to the States, going to go take a look at that. B-52s. I thought the B-52 stopped playing years ago. She was so cute. I can't remember what the lead singer of the B-52s would call what her name was. She always had such a happy smile. I always loved watching those videos because she looked so happy. There's something sexy about women who sing and look happy while they're doing it. Maybe it's just me. How many B-52s are left in the desert graveyards? I don't think Zelensky wants to fly any of those. They may be a little easy to shoot down, but I think we have quite a few. Yeah, when is Open Society's doors not active? I don't know. Ever. They're going to try to ban anything they can. But yeah, there's also the some of the battleships sitting out here. There's a couple of things, and I want to see the Texas. Are they done? Well, they've been working on that for a long time. The U.S. Texas, I think the Texas is still in dry dock being fixed. Thank God for that because it was really in bad shape, really bad shape. But I'm going to try to do everything I need to do in Europe first. And the beehive hairdo. Yeah, I know. Sounds cute. Seriously. I mean, what drugs do you have to be on to come up with a song called Rock Lobster? Seriously. So anyway, slight bit of news on the fort. Good there. As long as the hull is reinforced on the Texas, because the hull was not good. It was bad shape. It really was. It was almost collapsing onto itself. And the forts in Poland, I now have a friend with an NGO out there that's looking into it, and there are two large forts that might be able to be obtained. I will know more when I get there, but if either one, there will be an open invitation for Lost Battlefields warriors to come out and, I don't know, chop down trees that are in the bloody way, grass, painting. And one of them, I have no idea how to do this. One of them is awesome. We've been through it. And there's an original writing from World War I on the walls. And then there's been a fire, so some of it is sooted up. And I have no idea how to restore soot off original paint on the walls, because painting them is great. But I don't want to we got to save some of this that's now been. I have no idea how to do this. But first of all, there'll be doors on the lid. We've got to close stuff up and then try to save this stuff. It's it's going to be expensive. It's going to be time consuming. But if we get a real fort, then we'll do it. And then I think we should do a wing to World War II, World War I, and to the Prussian War, because I think we need to do more about. I haven't talked much about Lukashenko because I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts about that. He's not really one of the people that keeps me awake at night. The Chinese keep me awake at night, honestly. Sumer historian. I will take a look. Fort Stevens in Oklahoma. Civil War forts. I will get to. Yes, I know that one. We'll get to when I get to. I'm trying to get as much coverage in Europe as I can. I don't know why I have a hunch that things are going to go sideways to some degrees. I'm trying to get the stuff that may not survive very long. Kamikazes wear helmets. Well, you don't want to knock yourself out in the airplane and not be able to see the target. Actually, they didn't wear the kamikazes. They didn't wear helmets. They wore their rising sun bandanas, signifying who they were. I think they might have had the leather helmet with a. No, actually, I don't think they did wear helmets. I don't recall seeing any of the kamikaze pilots wearing helmets. I mean, I would like to. Do I believe the Russians burned the Amber Room, or do I think it's elsewhere? I think it's elsewhere. I definitely don't think the Russians would destroy something that important to them, no matter what Russian government there was or had been, whether it was a communist or anybody else. The Amber Room was just a real thing worth fighting for. I don't think the Russians ever found it or got it back. I think it disappeared with the Germans at that point, and I think. Well, there's two particular theories to the Amber Room. One of them is that it was transported somewhere back to wherever it was and decimated from there to some rich guy somewhere. Maybe it's on a mansion in Switzerland. I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, I don't think it's not impossible they would have melted down the gold. It's not impossible, but I even think the Germans recognized the importance of it. They were very history savvy. Remember. However, there's a third possibility is that during the latter days of the war, Hitler had a meeting with General Kammler, and he was told to, as Kammler was one of the few people left he felt he could trust, who could do things. And there is some suspicion that Kammler was actually instructed to hide the Amber Room. And I'm not just pulling that out of somebody who said. I got that from somebody who knew Kammler. So, and there's even a map with a rough location that I am not going to tell you, but I have seen it, and more to come. It's plausible. There are several possibilities. That is one of them. So anyway, what have I got? I am going to do some specials on the Austro-Hungarian fortresses and the Prussian forts because I think they're really cool. Yeah. I mean, if Kammler hit it somewhere, he hit it somewhere he was familiar with or had been prepared. He didn't just drive it out into the first mine he saw and dump it there. You got to remember the Annenberg and the SS mapped every tunnel, every mine, every hole in the ground throughout the Reich and Poland and Czechia and Czechoslovakia, everywhere. They knew where all the holes were. They were also, of course, with that knowledge in mind, you would also know where to be able to hide things that wouldn't be flooded or get wet or get messed. We have a plan on looking in that general area, but that's just kind of things that's going to have to happen when. Brother man, if they wear something in a movie, you can't exactly take that to the bank. You got to look at the photos of them taking off, and there's videos and photos of them taking off. Look at the last kamikaze pilot because he actually didn't die. He survived because he couldn't find a target and kept landing, coming back because he couldn't find any of the target, kept coming back. And then like, why do you keep coming back? Because there's nothing to hit. And for some reason he survived, and he is a preacher in Japan. He's still alive. He does a lot of lessons and lectures, and his story, there's a lot. There's some videos on his story, his life story, and in there's a whole lot of stories about the kamikazes, and see the footage of them taking off their planes. So you can just look at that, and you'll see if they're wearing. And that's what I'm sort of recalling, not seeing any helmets, because remember, if you have to go by history by the movies, then the Vikings did not wear horns in their petty helmets. So there. I still have nightmares, dreams of that Panzer IV. The Russians, for some reason, rolled out somewhere down south. It's on the Russian territory, and of course the Ukrainians hit it with something. The tank blew it up. It was hit, not badly, but it must have been running because the tracks were blown off. So it must have been running, and problem with I want it. We got to save it. It must have been restored. Must have been sitting in some way in a museum, and they rolled it out as a decoy or something. Because you're going to find ammo for a German Panzer IV. So there's a fairly good shaped Panzer IV sitting somewhere on the battlefield, surrounded by mines. And I really think we need to go get it. We find out where it is, and find some people that are dumb enough to roll in there with a crane and a flatbed. That's sort of my. Oh God, I really wanted to go to Moscow to see the mouse. I was talking to an American friend of mine he's in Russia a couple of times a year. He says no problem. Of course, he doesn't show up with a camera like I might. So, well, I guess it was marketing. I think there were one or two of them. There were about three made. Two of them there were three made and blown up. And the one they have in Russia is the turret from one and the chassis from another, I think. I seem to remember that correctly. But they actually rolled them out as the Russians came close. I don't know if they rolled them out into battle, but it was the gun they'd had. What did they have, an 88, or was it a regular main gun? I don't think the gun was. Somebody should look up the gun caliber on the mouse. I was curious. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, those Americans going there all the time, and I mean, I would definitely write for a visa and explain exactly who I am and why I'm there. That's not the time. I really wanted to go to Kaliningrad and look at some of the old Prussian forts there. Again, let's just walk around Russian territory with a media tag and swing cameras around and see how that goes. So again, Belarus, the same thing. There's the Brest fortress. I would love the Brest, not Brest. You pervs, I know what you were thinking. 128 millimeter. Okay, so that's the same as the what's that called? Sturmtiger was 128, I think. So they had the munitions for it. So theoretically, they could have rolled it out and fired off some shots at the Russians. They like Tucker. I mean, I wouldn't mind talking to. I mean, I would interview anybody. I would like to talk to. I don't know what I would ask for. Yes, I know. I will do an interview with Putin, and all I would talk about is the files from 1945. And you probably know. I probably also have to submit the questions beforehand, I think. Oh yeah, well, no railguns, not really practical, but they are. Yeah, you're right. They are actually really cool. And the railgun sitting next to the Todt, the fortress, the Todt organization, Todt bunker in France. Small one. Anybody going to the D-Day celebration? And if you do, and I do show up, and I see you in not a Lost Battlefield T-shirt, I'm gonna get really mad. I'm just kidding, but it would be kind of fun to start seeing people in Lost Battlefield gear. Yeah, Battlefield told me, Kelly, there's a small railgun sitting there. Not big enough. We need bigger. Sevastopol, I would have loved to have gone there. I mean, could they just have waited with this old stuff? But anyway, can't ever get all one. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the D-Day celebrations, and I always thought it was unfair that they're really not frown on, but they really don't want a whole lot of German reenactors there. Like, come on, they were there. You can't really say D-Day without the Germans. That's kind of pretty much why it was a thing. All these tourists going to Normandy is only there because of the Germans. They should all be happy. But apparently, I would think it would be kind of cool to run through in a tiger or something. But anyway, I guess the French don't see it that way. What do I know? But yeah, that's what I'm probably going to be in Ukraine at that time anyway. Depends if I swing right or swing left. The train bunkers in Calais. No, not yet. But I am going to Calais because I'm going back to the blockhouse and see if I can convince them to let me drain that lower level that's not there. And there's some tunnels at Le Capole that he keeps telling me that, oh, well, we're going to get dirty, but I'll take you through them. And I keep saying yes. So we shall see. The German perspective of D-Day. Let me see. I believe I made one or two. Which one? But if you recommend a good movie, that's not mine because I said good movie. You have to watch It's My War. It's a Korean war movie about two Korean brothers that end up Koreans fighting the Japanese, get captured by the Japanese, get turned around to fight the Chinese. The Japanese get turned around to fight the Russians, get captured by the Russians, get turned around to fight the Germans, get captured by the Germans, get stuck on the wall in Normandy to fight there. And it's a real story. Bloody awesome. And I'm sure it's there in it's there with subtitles. Awesome movies, like 3 hour long or something, but definitely a movie that should be done. Definitely, a really good movie. Other than that, any of you know if there's any Prussian reenactors out there? Prussian, not Russian, Prussian reenactors. It'd be kind of interesting to see because I'm doing a documentary about the Prussian Empire, or maybe even a series. There's a lot of. I would love to do a movie about the Prussian Wars because there was some real tense. The 70-Year War was really could have gone both ways. Very much a nail biter if you read the story or hear it presented correctly. But yeah, you have the movie. Yeah, it's great. It's a great movie. It seems that everything he says is from some source. The Red Skull Cannon. Am I coming in? Felix, considering my agent and managers are generally useless, unless I make it myself, probably not. Uh, I don't know. My last agent, he sort of gave up on me because I was too white. No, I'm not even kidding. He said that it was really hard to place white actors in Hollywood because, well, you're not ethnic, you're not gay, you're not this or that. It's really hard. So, seriously, that was actually a thing I was told that it's really hard for smaller actors to get placed when they're white. So I don't know. So soon, I guess we're going to see Hollywood PC correct movies where we have some black Nazis and other stuff because we just have to be that way, right? Anyway, we'll see. But I am planning. Anyway, that's something else I could throw around at you. I was. I know. No, I just have a really good light here. I haven't seen the sun for years. I was. Yeah, they always trying to ban German reenacting everywhere. They're always trying to ban anything to do with history. And the only thing is we're not fighting, and there's not enough people on the norm side of common sense that's fighting back. Crete is, yeah, I would love to see Crete and also Italy. You found a Prussian reenacting group? Please email me their info because this I gotta see. And also remember Strasbourg. There's some other forts down there coming. Very interesting. Stories. I really want to do a sniper movie, German versus Russian, obviously. If any of you have any good sniper stories, yes, we all read that book with that kid, which actually a pretty good book. But if there's any stories, anecdotes from German snipers, Russian snipers, drop me an idea, because I'm sort of setting it up that we could shoot an Enemy at the Gate 2 type thing. Yes. Um, Sniper versus sniper, something. And I figured doing it myself. I talked to a couple of the guys, and some are tank people, and interesting to do a sniper movie. Might talk to reenactment units out in Czechoslovakia or Czechia. Sorry, they split themselves while I was sleeping, and they might be on board. And since I was thinking about make it as miserable a shoot as I can, we'll make it a winter sniper movie, just because everybody needs to be miserable and cold, right? So I actually talked to some of the. I'm not a big caviar fan, honestly. I talked to the Ukrainian, my film guy people out there, the military guys out there. They used to do a lot of military film consulting. I said, "Well, let's go shoot a movie out there," and they came. They all wanted to. We couldn't really kind of get it together. In other words, it didn't really get any. There's no free Happy Meal anymore. Happy Meals now here, California, where they all get paid $20 an hour, is like $21. So no more Happy Meals. Forget it. Yeah. Thanks, Simon. I mean, that'd be kind of fun to visit. I'm still trying to find out what artillery regiment my great grandfather was in East Prussia. It's a little hard to find because, once again, the Russians destroyed all the archives. Hello, thank you. Why not invade? Why didn't Soviet invade Japan? They did, Cliff. They started. They barreled through Manchuria as soon as they saw us dropping or about to win and drop the nuclear bomb, because they wanted to sit on as much Japanese territory as possible when the war ended. And because of the bombs we dropped on them, the Japanese surrendered in time for the Russians not to occupy everything, because that was a real thing. But they did. They started, and I think that was Zhukov again. They started. As the moment the war ended in the West, they rotated everything to the east, so preparing for their massive. It was a massive battle, and they overran the Japanese in Manchuria, and they just kept going. That battle is one we're also going to get to, because that took a hell of a bit of logistics. Of course, in 1945, the Russians had lots of everything, and lots of. I think they had 19 million people under arms, or 15, something like that. So, yeah, I know it's terrible. But yeah, no, there was a real battle that took place, and we'll get to that. And it's just so much more fun to cover a story when you're actually able to visit the locations. Yeah. Today, the town's called Gizetko, and back then it was Lutzen. It was the biggest city in East Prussia, about was like 20 kilometers from Rastenburg. His name was Lipanis. That was the grandfather's name, not the last name. Great grandfather's name, I actually don't remember right now. I will look that up. Do you have any? I talked to the city archives out there. I also joked around, so I asked if we could have our mansion back, and when they asked what side of the war we were, or if we were Jewish, I said no. Like, then that was a no. I actually thought they thought I was serious. The presided that it was blowing up, and there's an apartment complex on where it was now, I think. So, but I was there, but yeah, they couldn't find anything. There's interesting. There was a German historian with the same last name from that town that had left, and his kid, which was quite old, was a military historian in Germany. And I asked him, "Are you from this town? Or your family from this town? Could you be related to my family?" And he, no, not at all. And he brushed that off real quick, which I thought was quite weird. I don't know I don't think the Russians sat on Japan. I think they stayed on the mainland, honestly. But I haven't started breaking down that part yet, but it's entirely possible. Yes, Josef Alberger. I have that book. That's a great story. Um, but there's so much I would like to try to dig out of the German archives. I'm visiting the Austrian archives in a few weeks because, well, we've got to start somewhere. Uh, but yeah, all the documentation of a lot of what of the Prussians in East Prussia is just gone, and it was destroyed. And but they are trying to piece it together in Giuseppe. Um, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to dig around and see. Um, no, I don't think they made it to Japan. I thought they stayed on the mainland after kicking them out of that part. Um, well, I mean, everybody have a Prussian family history. Um, not as much of a mystery anymore, since I know pretty much what happened to all of them, and at least with to some degree, with the great grandparents are buried. Hang on for a minute, everybody. Hang on. Yes.
May I use the restroom?
Go for it.
Thank you.
All right, I'm back. Like I said, I'm doing that thing that I'm doing, and Lithuanian records. I don't know. I don't know if they are. They might be. I mean, there's always going to be. There's also like the British and the Americans, the French had troops in Berlin, and they didn't actually take it, although damn well they should have, for the better of everybody. But Lithuanian records, I don't know. I would assume a lot of it has been, but back in that day, a lot of family records were also kept by the churches, which may have survived. Some of it may be kidnapped. It depends. It's unless you specifically look into that, it's hard to find in Poland if they're over 100 years old. They go to the central archive if they exist, which they don't always do. And again, a lot of it was taken, stolen, destroyed. Yeah, that's exactly it. The Russians declared war on Japan because they were allies almost through the entire war, just because they wanted to get some. So, I mean, if there are any records left, probably most of the local records, depending where the war was. One thing is destroyed in the fighting. Then there's also the chance that if it was, it could have been confiscated in afterwards because the Russians sat on everything, and of course they're in KVD and others. Possibly. Sorry, I was just reading about a sniper suggestion. It's entirely possible that NKVD took an interest in a lot of people and confiscated the records. That also happened a lot, which is almost also a very real thing. And so there's multiple chances for where the records could have disappeared, and good fences makes good neighbors. Non-aggression pacts makes non-aggression pacts, I guess. Anyway. So anyway, any other interesting, weird, and strange questions? But do keep me posted on any ideas that you may have on things I have to see. What kind of people do their interest? Anybody that might be opposing the regime, which meant be anybody who was had been a nationalist or fought in that country's military. Like if you were Polish, you've been in the Polish army. We all know what the Russians did to them. Then if you fought in the Polish underground, the Russians, same thing. You fought for Poland. They would also disappear. Anybody who sent up anybody who would have any interest or capability in setting up an independent country would be on that list. And I mean, you remember the Russians, they shipped women, children, anybody they scooped up and sent to Russia to work and were never seen again. From Germany, Poland, there's nothing good that can be said about the Russian liberation of Western Europe, or certainly Polish or the Baltics. And there are stories and accounts that I've read that I could never actually share anywhere in public, because they are so horrific that I couldn't do a TV show on what the Russians really did. I couldn't say it on YouTube. That would be deleted. It would be terrible. And it's just the things people do to each other is, and certain people do to others. Yeah. Vietnam. Oh, God, I'd love to go to Vietnam. But again, like, I'm doing this on, the only reason I'm able to do this is because of Patreon and your memberships and Lost Battlefield, because YouTube revenue is now at a point where it barely pays for the phone bill. I have no idea what's going on with YouTube. It's not like I'm getting any recommendations or any push anywhere. And the revenue, even though the views are the same, the revenue is, I think, like $200-300 now. It's ridiculous. From a couple of years ago, when I started traveling, it was because the YouTube revenue from the commercials actually funded the traveling. It was good. It was several thousand a month, and there was a possibility I could do this. Now I just, work 12-hour days all day or all week, because it's so when going places all boils down to economics, and I have to sort of plot and plan where to go and be as efficient as I can. No, the UK have been fairly good at putting out their records, but again, there's also a lot of them that hasn't been. For instance, yeah, I know. I figure I'm not. I don't know what YouTube are doing. I guess they only want Tic Tac crap and short stuff. Well, none have shown up. Remember the correspondence leading up to Pearl Harbor between Churchill and the American president has not been released. And what was it the statement was? I think some years ago, the statement, when it was asked, the British came out and said it would not be in either country's interest to release these records, which means we really want to know. We all know what's in those records. We all know they do. It's just, we all know. And that does the same things, like who killed Kennedy. Well, it's easy to say who didn't kill Kennedy. What happened in 9/11? Oh, it was easy to say what didn't happen in 9/11. We are now at a point where the official narratives are outright the opposite of what's happening these days, and it's terrifying. It's a very, very strange world we live in, and maybe that's why there's not a whole lot of push or credence or promotion in YouTube or others about in pushing history or documentaries. Hess didn't help a bit writing Mein Kampf. I thought he was acting as a secretary, actually writing out whatever was dictated to him. By the way, Hitler did not write all of Mein Kampf. He didn't write quite a lot of it, actually. Wrote some of it, but again, his name's on it. He approved it. Because, you're not going to put your name on something you haven't read. I just don't think it was a very strange compilation of writing. It's not like it flows. Okay. There's a new Hess bio, you say. Who wrote it? Where is he from? Where did he go to school? What's his political affiliations? I'm talking about the author. And what sources is he citing would now be my first question. Because I'm pretty sure that Rudolf Hess did not write a bio himself, nor did anyone in his family. But I'll be curious, very curious to hear who or what. Andreas, I will look it up. But and that's another thing is when you hear lectures, or you see books that was written by, and you look up the author. Like, what exactly is this man's background? Where did he come from? Did he come from? Is he a professor in one of those colleges that are currently teaching their kids to run around on campus yelling "Death to America"? Because if he is, I'm not entirely sure. I want to hear his opinion about what he thinks about history. And that's where we need to start researching what we're actually getting. Oh, Netherlands, since I'm going to the Netherlands. I can't believe that tomorrow you all voted for Cold War over other stuff. Would love to visit the Casamata. Come here. Why this thing won't scroll? When you join the Netherlands again. All right. Holy crap, this is annoying. Yeah, well, yes. Did I not say yes? Did we not say yes on that? I have your email, I believe, right? You emailed me. Didn't we also talk about Strasbourg? By the way, yes, and I will be in Holland, and I'm probably going to be in Holland in the last week of June. I'm thinking that's quite possible. No, Mein Kampf is not an easy read. It's really not. You voted because of the Fuller Gap. Well, yep. Well, we're going to see where they stored all the missions. We're going to see that tomorrow. And then we'll see what options I give you. Yes, I said that at the beginning when I saw you jumped on. I got your emails, and thank you. And I will actually respond in to the emails in a little bit. But yes, I got. Anyway, I'm hot in my airproof box, and now I'm going to go actually eat something. I think I probably should have some sort of breakfast. I've been sitting here for 6 hours now, and I got to do something. You guys got to get on board with the Pomeranian Wall because those bunkers are really cool. And if I can finish it by next week, I don't think I'm going to give you a choice. Damn it. I think I'm going to give you what I want to give you. I'm going to give you a walkthrough of a huge bivouac that somebody restored, and I can show you everything in it. Well, restored is still, well, the seal is like this because it's blown up, but it's full of stuff. But it'll show you how everything, I can show you how everything worked in it, built 1934. So maybe I'm going to just inflict you with the Pomeranian Wall if I can finish that episode this weekend. We'll see. I'm trying to catch up so much that when I'm traveling, there's something for you each week. Although YouTube is not really, but anyway, one YouTube audiobook. Yes, I'll read Mein Kampf, the audiobook, because that way I don't have to worry about ever working in Hollywood again. All right, you guys. Probably let's do another live chat next week when I'm actually at home. Teresa, hey. Yeah, I don't. But and yeah, we'll probably do another one next week, and then after that, I am off to Europe, and we shall see. Sepp Elberger, yeah, Sepp Elberger was the other book, and I got the female sniper thing idea. I don't know if I'm going to do a real story. I'm going to take some stories from different snipers and throw them together and just make a movie that's just a movie. But I think there should. And I think I'm going to do Hollywood. Probably going to have romance that have to be saved by the sniper. And it's not going to be my romance because I think I'm too old to romance in movies now. All right, you guys have a great weekend, and girls, period. And well, tomorrow, about the same time, we're going to the Fulda Gap. And if there's too many questions on that, we may jump on live. Let's see how far I get on my editing world here. And you take care. Have fun. Friesland has nice blonde girls, you say. Well, that's also a thing. That's a thing. See, now you're talking my language here. I will see you all tomorrow in the chat. You guys take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.